Hi there. I had found a bunch of CT Juggles tutorials to be really helpful as I'm getting back into juggling these days. And so I told him I was going to try to do my part by responding with an anti-tutorial teaching you something very much not to do. So some of his tutorials that I really liked were explaining how to hold multiple rings in one hand and multiple clubs in one hand. And it made me realize that when I taught myself how to hold multiple clubs in one hand years ago, I taught myself a really stupid way to do it. So in summary, his talks about using a circus grip to hold two clubs in one hand with one under the other, or the other grip to hold two in one hand with one club on top of the other. So when I taught myself to juggle years ago, I taught myself neither. I taught myself the don't do this grip, where I held one club kind of in between my fingers like this, and then laid the other club on top. So that club was being thrown pretty much with the thumb and one finger, and once I threw that, then the next club I was throwing with pretty much my whole hand with just this one finger on top. Now that in itself is not so bad, but there's a couple real problems with it. So one is that's also how I taught myself to catch, which often works okay, but you run the risk that that other club comes spinning in, you catch it with that finger in between, and when you get really lucky, it beats the hell out of your finger. With padded handle clubs like these, it's not that bad. Occasionally the dowel catches you just right and it hurts. With things like solid wooden handled knives or torches, it's a lot worse. It's really painful. So you don't want your fingers caught in between on a catch like that. The other real problem I have is it doesn't scale. And what I mean by that is when I was trying to teach myself 5 clubs back in the day, I never got very far, and I think I now know why. So if that was my 2 club grip with one finger in between, I don't know if you can see that, there we go. The way that I did 3 was to hold the first one in between these fingers, then the second one where that is, and then the third one in between my pointer and thumb. So this is incredibly clumsy and incredibly uncomfortable. I might manage to flip that first club out, but keep in mind I do 5 clubs. I need to throw an accurate double spin using these 2 fingers. If I manage to get that club out okay, now I have to somehow throw this one the same way, and the handles are getting caught on each other. It's a disaster. And if I somehow manage to do that, my big reward for all of it is I get to throw this third club in a perfect double spin while there's 4 clubs in the air, using this jacked up lobster grip where it's between my ring finger and my middle finger. And this just doesn't work at all. Now this is an important distinction. When he teaches you to hold multiple rings, there's some good lessons to be learned there, in that by separating them with your fingers, if you do it right, each time you throw a ring, your life gets easier, right? Because now whatever fingers you used to throw the previous ring are now available to throw the next ring. And by the time you're done, your last ring should be coming out of all 4 fingers and your thumb. And you could see that was very much not the case with the jacked up lobster grip method, where you end up throwing a club like this. So don't do it. I am suffering now because I spent a very long time juggling the wrong way, because I taught myself that, and it's very hard to undo after all these years. So if you're just learning now and you find that you're throwing clubs with your fingers in between to separate them, I would just get out of the habit right now before that gets any more entrenched in your brain, because the longer you do it that way, the harder it is to change. So hopefully this saves somebody all the irritation that I'm going through right now. Thanks.